Welcome to AgriMinds, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Kacee Bowl, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AgriMinds.
Well, hello, everyone. I have got a special treat for you today. On many of the previous episodes, I've mentioned this tool called the Working Genius. And so today I am super honored to have Laura Lencioni join me today to talk about all things Working Genius, how it applies in every single area of our life. And so please help me in welcoming Laura. Hey, Laura, thank you.
Hi, Kacee. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
Yes. We connected, I don't even remember when it was, but we took the Working Genius certification course together and got paired off to do a couple of exercises together. And I just loved hearing your version of how you apply the Working Genius into your life and all the roles that you play. And many of the people in the agriculture industry wear several hats too. And so today I thought it would make sense for us to take like 15 steps back and really just define what the heck the Working Genius model is. So that way people are like, oh, I've heard you mention this several times, but I still don't know what you're talking about. And so I thought today we would walk through what it is and then how you utilize that in your life. And then we can kind of just carry the conversation on from there. So just as a background, the Working Genius model is, think of it as like 20% personality assessment and 80% productivity tool. So if you think of like Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram, colors, there's all these different personality assessments that tell you like, this is who you are. These are the things that make up you. This is your personality. These are the things that you like to do. These are the things that the reason why you think certain things or do certain things, right? But the Working Genius takes it up a notch, in my opinion, and really talks about, okay, what do we do with that information though? Like, how do we actually apply it to real life? Like, it's not just oh, this is nice to know about myself and have like some self-awareness, but it's really like, what do we do with it? And so, Laura, I would love for you to, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you're tied to the Working Genius, and then we can dive a little bit more into what the 6 types of Working Geniuses are and go from there.
All righty. So I am a mom. I have 4 boys, twins who are 25, a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. And I've been pretty much a stay-at-home mom for the last 25 years. Before that, I worked in training and consulting, and before that, I worked in recruiting. And I am tied to the Working Genius because I'm married to it. I'm married to the inventor. So it was really fun to see it be invented and to be part of that whole process. And so the Working Genius has just really, it's changed our lives in so many ways. Gosh, I do a lot of pondering. I'm a W, which we'll go through in a minute. But it's just really amazing to see how quickly people can implement it and how teams can use it, teams or families or marriages. I mean, it's a great tool for any industry, any job, anywhere. I mean, I think it's great for kids too, to learn theirs, because then they can know how they work, really, like what they enjoy, what fills their cup, what they're not good at. And it's okay not to be good at things. I think that's the hardest thing, is to get over, for me it was to get over that I'm not good at something, and that's okay.
Yes, I struggle with that as well. And when you think about like the 6 types of Working Genius, essentially what that means is anything that you do, whether it is, starting a business, working on a project, planning the family vacation, there are really 6 types of work that goes into that. And the 6 types of Working Genius start with wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And so think of it as like 6 gears all kind of stacked next to each other. And in order to work through the process from start to finish, you have to start at the wonder stage. So you're thinking of things as like, what could we do? Or like, what's the problem that needs solved? Where should we start? Someone has to think of something, right? Someone's asking questions, someone's thinking why. And that's what a genius that you and I both share. So every single person has 2 geniuses. Every single person has 2 of those 6 that are frustrating, meaning I cannot get it. I don't want to do it. It frustrates me. I don't enjoy it. And then there are 2 in between there that's called a competency. And essentially what that is it's like, I don't mind doing some of this stuff, but if I do too much of it, it's going to burn me out. And so like sometimes we need to do it to scratch the itch, but then sometimes it's like, if I just can't do this anymore. And it almost becomes a frustration and it burns us out and we get discouraged. So each of us has 2 of those 6 that are like our God-given talents. Like that's what we were born to do. That's something like if you think about a process of doing a task, right? Like think of like, okay, I explained this to my 6-year-old because they always say like, if you can't explain it to a 6-year-old, do you actually understand it?
Right.
So I tried to explain this to my 6-year-old the other day and like utilized cleaning a room, right? So I, as the parent, am wondering, why is your room not clean? Or I'm thinking about like, hey, he needs to go get something done. He needs to do a chore. Like there could be a couple of different reasons why this idea or the solution needs to be thought about. So I'm thinking, hey, that room needs to be clean. Then you could move into the invention stage of, okay, like let's actually go clean the room. What are some of those things that need to happen? Okay, well, the clothes need to be picked up and the toys need to be put away. So we're thinking about like, okay, who's going to be doing this thing? How does it need to be done? Like, when does it need to be done? Those types of things. And then you could think about like the discernment, which is the cog number 3, if you will. And you could think of it as like, well, I know that he's already been yelled at a couple of times today. So if I go about this in a way that's like, you need to go clean your room, he's going to be mad and he's not going to do an efficient job. Or I could go about it as like, hey, I'll help you. And which can tie into a couple of other cogs, but that discerning is like, now makes sense for us to do the job. Yes, we need to clean the room. So this is either a good idea or it's a bad idea. And then you could move into like the galvanizing stage. So you're getting him excited and kind of thinking about like, hey, if we clean our room, then maybe we'll have a reward. Like we can go for ice cream. You'll be able to find toys that you've never realized were lost. And like, it's like you're finding a new toy all again. You're like, what kinds of things can we do to like get him excited about it? And then the enablement, which is the cog number 5, is like stepping in and actually helping him clean the room. Because he may be getting discouraged, he may be getting frustrated, it's taking longer than he thought it would, it's not going, the toys are overflowing, so he may need some help getting things organized, he may need some help stepping in and doing the work with him. And then that tenacity is like celebrating the fact that you got the room clean, everything's good, it happened the way that we needed it to happen, and we checked it off the list, things are done. So I don't know if that was a really great way. It's kind of hard to think about cleaning your room in that way. Right. But that's kind of like the flow, if you will. And so when we think about how that applies to other areas of our life, such as being at work, like I think I mentioned at the beginning, planning some kind of event or vacation or whatever, just working with other people, there's parts of that process that get us really excited. And there's parts of that process that are like, I don't even want to think about that. As you mentioned beginning, you are a wanderer. I am also a wanderer. So I'm a wonder and discerner. And so when we think about wondering, I love to think about what kinds of things need to get done. Why do we need to get them done? Let's think about what that process could look like. Let's ask, why did it not already get done? Things like that. But if you were to ask me to go be the one to clean the room, that's a frustration of mine. I don't want to go clean the room. I will think about how to clean the room. I will think about who needs to clean the room. I will think about when it needs to be done. but I don't actually want to go clean the room. Now, on the contrary, there are other people who don't like asking those why questions. They are maybe on the end of that line of the cogs, and they're like the tenacity. They're the people who are like, you think about what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, and just tell me what to do, and I will go do it. And that's where they shine. And I never thought about things in that way before. And so I always thought, like, well, maybe I'm lazy. Maybe I don't have a good work ethic. Maybe I'm just too all up in my emotions and in my mind and just out in the clouds, right? Like I always thought something was wrong with me because of that, because there was no tangible thing that you could see that I've done, right?
Right.
And so just to kind of put into perspective my view of it all. But what I would love to just talk with you through, Laura, is you being a mom of several kids who have different types of personalities, but you also mentioned there is a gap in your family where none of your family members have, or maybe there's like only one that has these certain working geniuses. Walk me through like what that's been like before you found out they're working geniuses and after the assessment has been taken and you kind of like were able to name, oh, this kid has these geniuses and this kid has this, and this is kind of the dynamic we have now. Walk me through what that's like as a mom.
Well, it's been really interesting doing the working genius because we learned that only one person in our entire family has tenacity. And that's one of our twins, Connor, and 4 of us are wanderers. So wanderers spend a lot of time in their head. And they spend a lot of time pondering and thinking. And so sometimes they can feel zoned out, or it can feel like they're not paying attention, but they're really just pondering things. And it's fascinating to know that your child, like, I'm always like, what are you thinking? Tell me what you're thinking, because they're in their head a lot. And so it's just really helpful to realize we also have no galvanizers, 0 galvanizers in our family. And 4 of us have it as a frustration. We have a lot of discernment in our family, and Pat and I are the only ones with invention. And then we only have 1 with enablement. So enablement is huge in a family because it's somebody who's going to come alongside and help you get things done. And it helped me really understand, oh, okay, it's not that I didn't train my kids well. It's not that I didn't do something right. It's that's just not their natural gift and they don't like doing it. So as a WI, I need to figure out different ways and invent different things to think about how I can get them excited about cleaning their room or whatever it is, and then I have no galvanizing. So I just sound like I'm nagging. It's really interesting, the difference between galvanizing and nagging. There is a difference, and galvanizers just have a way of getting people to get things done. And I'm like, well, you should do it because I said so, right? That doesn't work. That doesn't work very often. But it's just really fascinating how it's impacted our family and just how we know. So now I'm like, okay, they're in their head, or they're not going to get this done unless I come alongside maybe and help them do it. So it's, I don't know, I think it's just fascinating. And the other, so one thing that I think is really interesting, because we have twins, right? And they're identical twins. They don't have the same working genius. They both
that
have
is fascinating.
Yeah. And so, because people always ask, is this something that you're born with? And I do think it is, because they've been like this since they were little, right? I mean, you can see in your children different traits. And I think that's another fascinating thing about the working genius, is that you can actually see it in action. You can see, like, I think you're an extrovert, right?
I think.
I think, well, just from listening to you, like, I think you wonder out loud, like you ask questions out loud. Like, I'm in my head asking questions, and I wonder without even realizing I'm wondering, because it's just so natural that I'm just asking questions. And then I go to the invention stage. And so people only see my invention. But I think wonder's probably the hardest one to see if people are introverted about it. But well, discernment too, and enablement. Those are the hard ones, because those are all responsive geniuses. But it's fascinating to see it play out. And if you skip a step, you can feel it in your team or in your family, whatever it is. I think I told you this story that we were at a dinner with a family and we had done their working geniuses and they were all like galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And the mom has GT. And so we were at dinner and she said, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this. They all stood up and they did it. And I was like, what just happened there? Because that would never, I mean, I would never do that, first of all. And second, I don't know if they would actually do it. But because mine don't have enablement as a genius. And I mean, half of them have it as their frustration. So it's just really interesting to see the differences in families, in your own family, and not to feel, I think the one of the greatest things about the working genius is to alleviate the guilt and shame. Like the guilt and shame of not having tenacity. To me, that's still something I struggle with, because that is something that has been hammered into me since I was a kid, and that I wasn't good at it. So I'm like, I am going to prove that I have tenacity, but I definitely don't. Like we hired an organizer to come, and I felt so guilty the first time I did it. And I felt like I can organize. I'm okay at it. Like I have the vision of what I want it to be. I just can't get it done. It's kind of like the cleaning the room. I would envision what I want in that room, but getting it done is a whole nother thing. And I could get it done. It would just take me way longer than it takes somebody who has enablement and tenacity. And so I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling all over the place, but so I don't know. I think in families, it's okay if you don't have something, hire it out. Figure out how you can. I mean, there's two parents, so you're going to be missing at least 2 geniuses, possibly 3, maybe 4, depending on what your spouse is. So you got to figure out what you don't have and make sure you accommodate for that. Like one of my
think
friends,
that's been the biggest aha for me. I mean, it's to know, oh, I don't have to feel guilty about not having a certain thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to supplement or outsource that certain thing. And I think like even within the agriculture industry, right? Like we're just supposed to enjoy all the things. Like we're passionate about ag, then we should know and do all the things in ag, and we should enjoy it.
Right.
And that's just not necessarily the case. Like I remember like, oh, you're a farmer's daughter, then you must love going and walking the cornfield and scouting for diseases and things. I was like, that is the least favorite job. Like I got paid to do that and I still hated it. And, it's just like, there are certain tasks that I just don't enjoy. Like I could think about it. And I think you mentioned it earlier about like thinking out loud versus thinking internally. And like, I remember having a conversation with my husband a while back, and he was trying to tell me or justify something, right? Like he was like, here's what my idea, and I think I'm going to do this, this, and this. And before I knew about Working Genius, I would have handled that situation like, well, what about this? And I would have like brainstormed all these potential solutions out loud. But since I took the Working Genius and I realized that my genius is wonder and discernment, I'm doing both of those things out loud. When he had already made up his mind, he had already made the decision of this is what I'm going to do. He wasn't necessarily looking to start back over at the wonder stage. He was looking to just get some support and say, hey, this is what I'm going to go do. And I'm telling you about it. And Pat mentions that a lot on the Working Genius podcast of like, we needed you in this phase of the project, but we've already moved into the implementation side of it. And so like, we don't want to start back over. Like, otherwise we'll just never get anything done. And so now I'm like, okay, he's not looking for me to have wonder or discernment in this conversation. He's just looking to tell me what he's doing. And I need to say, okay, because he's already made up his mind.
Right.
And when you mentioned nagging, it's like in his mind, he may have viewed me saying, I don't think what you're doing is a good idea. Here's all the things that are wrong with it. Here's all the things that I would do differently. And here's what you did, that I disagreed with. And it may come across as like nagging or like disagreeing or thinking he's not capable of making a decision. And I think now that I have that awareness, it's like, okay, I can tone down a little bit and not have to potentially start a disagreement or an argument with my husband because he wasn't looking for that. And like, you almost tried to like solve a problem when there was no problem.
Right.
You know what
right.
I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's been a great tool for us in that when I am thinking out loud and venting out loud, sometimes it comes across as me galvanizing, like I'm telling people what to do. And it's like, no, I'm just thinking and coming up with ideas. I'm brainstorming. I'm not telling you to do anything. And so I'll be like, I'm eyeing right now. I'm inventing. So don't think I'm telling you, you have to do this. And then, the other thing is like, I've been able to go to Pat and say, I need your discernment on this. And he loves that because he loves to discern. So I'll say, here's an idea I have. I'd love to have your discernment. Can you help me with that? And he is thrilled to do that. And you're right. If I don't want it and I wasn't looking for it, it's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think so every job is a 6-letter job, as you said before, I think. And there's 3 stages of getting the work done. There's ideation, there's activation, and implementation, right? And so the WI is the ideation, the DG is the activation, and the ET is the implementation. And you have to have all 3 stages, but it's very frustrating to go from, you want to go from ideation to activation to what's it called? Sorry, I just lost it. What's
implementation? Is that what you're trying to say?
Thank you. Gosh, I just said it 3 times.
I know. You got to like mentally visualize all of these letters.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, for the listeners, like, don't feel like you have to have this understood right away. Like, this is a process, and this is something that like is continually being discovered, right? And so like, just to give people grace, like even listening in to Pat and the group at the table group, that's where the Working Genius was really like discovered and created and designed, if you will. And I've been listening to that podcast for like, I don't know how long it's been out, like a year or something. And to this day, they are still like, well, wait, should it be called this instead? Or, like maybe we should think about this in this light. And that's the really cool thing about this whole entire model, is that it can kind of have 2 meetings. It's not cookie cutter. And, like every single person, like there's so many variables and so many like different ways to view it. Like I'm a wanderer and you're a wanderer, but then your secondary is what, an I? And my secondary is discernment, but then my working competency is an I. So I could step up and you and I could be on the same page, but then you could take into account like your Myers-Briggs or your Enneagram, and then that adds a whole nother level. And so some examples that they used on the podcast, the Working Genius podcast, was it Cody and Pat both are wonder and invention? No, so discernment and invention, right?
Are both, actually, they're both ENFPs in the Myers-Briggs. But Pat,
that's right.
Pat's an ID, an invention discerner, and Cody is a discerner galvanizer. So there's these differences.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you think, and then even same thing with your twins, right? Like you would assume these people are very similar people. We should expect that they're going to have the same ideas, the same motivations, the same thoughts and feelings about things. And I think that, the same thing goes with like when you're stereotyping people within an industry like ag or agriculture, like we could assume that everyone loves everything about this, and this. And some of the previous guests that I've had on here are ranchers and farmers. And like talking to the people on the ranch, like, I asked, what were some things that you should be excited about? Like people expect you to be excited about, but for some reason aren't. And they're like, turns out I really don't love this particular part of my job. And I should, but I just don't. And I was like, wow, I thought everyone, like that was a requirement, right, to be in that job. Like that's a qualification that you have to have in order to do that job. And he's like, that's a competency of mine. I can do it, but I just know sometimes I have to power through. But I do these other tasks both before and after I have to do this one task so I can fill my cup up, then I drain it, and then I can fill it back up again. So there's a method around the madness of like, I know like certain things I have to do. And so when you talk about like the stages of like, like you think of the idea, then you implement the idea, right? Like those are certain things of like, I may need some help on this because I'm burnt out on implementing stuff right now. And I know that I need to bring somebody else in. And so like I said, even though this has been around and this model has been utilized, like we're still bringing up questions of like, well, does that make sense? Is that legitimate? And so like, it can be a little confusing to think about like the whole flow, right? Like, cause sometimes
Right.
it's like, well, in this particular situation, we may need to implement before we do that, or we may need to do this before we do that. But the standard is this flow. And so it's super fascinating to think about like when and where we've done things. And if we've, like for agriculture, for example, like most of the thought is this is the way we've always done things. So this is the way we're always going to do them. And then looking at the flow of the working genius, it's like, oh, if we would have just made this one little tweak, that cog actually belongs over here, and that flow, and we put this person here versus that person and just make one little switch. Like say you have a family farm and you have 3 brothers and a dad and an uncle working on there. And I'm using that even though I know there are several females on the farm, but in my mind, that's just the first scenario. We've always assumed that this brother loves to do this work. So we put him in that job, but he is, he's an ET, and we always made him do the brainstorming. So he's wanting to like actually implement stuff and during the wonder and discernment phase. If that makes sense. I took the scenic route in explaining that, I'm fully aware, but you know what I mean? Like his genius is one end of the cog, but you are putting him in a role where he's doing this other thing. And so we've almost swapped out when and where we're doing things, and it worked. It just was not efficient.
Right.
It was super clunky. We may have like started to dull down some of those cogs, right? Like, cause we're forcing work. We're forcing work. And so that's why I say like the working genius is 80% productivity tool, because if you're doing something that you're not enjoying and you're forced to do it at a stage or doing types of work that don't really align with the things that you're excited about or fill your cup up, you could get burnt out and you could be super inefficient. And so like understanding the phases is so powerful.
Yeah, it's so great for people to first learn what their working genius is, right? And then to understand, and as they learn that, to get to know everybody who they work with, what their geniuses are, and see where they are misaligned and where they are not utilizing people to their fullest. Because you really want, I mean, you want people to enjoy their work, to be fulfilled, and to have dignity in their work. And when you're doing things that you feel like you're terrible at, when you feel like, oh, I am just using every ounce of energy just to get this done, where this person can do it in half the time. Sorry, I have to get some water. The efficiency goes down. You're absolutely right. I think one of my friends just told me she said that one of her clients they've done the working genius, they've implemented in their company, and they have increased their productivity by 33%. I don't know how they figured that out, but it's hard to monetize and it's hard to put numbers to this, but they somehow figured out that they increased their productivity by switching people around, by figuring out where people worked best, and everybody's happier.
Wow, that is amazing.
And I've been pondering on this all week. And since you asked me to be on this podcast, like how would you ask me how I would do things differently? And I think about that, like with farmers, with teachers, with anybody, any company. But when you are in a smaller organization and you have to do kind of all of it, or you have just a couple people doing all of it, I just was thinking, I would have probably leaned into my working genius a lot more and felt a lot less guilt and shame about hiring stuff out and having other people do things that I wasn't good at. I also never delegated because I hated doing those things. So I figured everybody hated doing those things, which was like, of course people like that. But I thought, like, my sister has ET, and I thought she just helped me because she was my sister.
Yeah.
So
that's powerful. That is really powerful. And I think you're right. Like, most of the people that are listening to this podcast or are going to be in the AgriMinds groups are people who live in small towns where there may not be a lot of resources. They own their own business, or they work in a company culture that hasn't quite, I say hasn't caught up to other industries, but that's not necessarily true, because there are a ton of agriculture businesses and companies that are way beyond others, where their culture is amazing. The tools and resources that they have are spot on. The places where they have their people is typically spot on. So I don't say that to dismiss anything, but there are still a lot of company culture and businesses where they're afraid to rock the boat because this is what we've always done, and it was successful 40 years ago. But man, times are changing, whether people want to agree with that or not. Like, the demands, and I say demands, but there may be a better word for that. The expectation that employees have of companies is changing, because I think that we are aware that we have choices. We are aware that we're able to call the shots. And typically my experience within the ag industry is, no, you have to work hard. You have to go through the initiation process. Like, say you work at this company, you have to start out on the bottom. And I'll use my farm for the example. So like I said, we're a 4th generation corn and soybean farm. And when I thought about like the hierarchy or the leveling up within our farm, I was the youngest. And so I had to start with the grunt work. I was scooping rotten beans out of the grain bins. I was greasing the implements and, kind of hitting my head on the shovels underneath. And this may be foreign language to you. I don't know.
No, it's fine. I love it.
You were looking at me like, what? Are you scooping out of where? Like, we had to do the grunt work. Right. Or like one of the things we had to go do. And I remember doing this before I even had my license. We had to go get our old pickup truck and drive it out in the field and pick up rocks and roots. And like, that was just really tedious, like, work. And I remember just like hating going and doing that, but I had to picture it as like, this is my opportunity where no one can interrupt me and I can be kind of mindless. And so I thought of that daunting, really unfun task in a way that could fill my cup up. So like, I didn't want to go drive around the field and pick up rocks and pick up roots, but I thought of it in a way of like, I can go out here and space out and daydream and do the wondering that I love to do, and viewed that task in that way. So then, like, as you get older and more experienced and you're kind of moving up the totem pole a little bit, you may get like, okay, cool, you get to go haul tanks now. And somebody, your little sister is the one who's going to go have to like do the weed eating around the pond and stuff like that. And then you move into like, okay, now I'm running the tractors. Now I'm running the semi. And like the king's throne was running the combine. Right. And so like, I always thought about like the promotion, like, these are the ththings that I get to go do. And like, I'm working my way up the rung here. Right. And I think about that like in a business setting. And it's like, well, if I'm trying to work my way up the ladder to get to the top of the line, people may start a job within a company. Like, they've gone into school to get an agriculture degree. They've got their job. Now they're scouting fields, and then they get promoted into being like a salesperson. Cool. I'm living in this. I'm really great at sales. I'm making the calls. I'm building the relationships. I'm getting the stuff done. And then they get promoted into being a people leader, and they're a manager. And now all of a sudden they're removed from the field. They're not out networking. They're not out scouting the fields. They're not out doing sales or whatever it is that they're doing. They're solely doing admin, people manager type stuff. And now all of a sudden it's like, crap, I'm still working for this really amazing ag company. I get to work in this type of environment. My employees now are the ones going out and doing the thing that I loved to do. And so now I'm not actually going out and doing the work that I love to do, or that was in my genius. I'm now doing like admin stuff, and I'm removed from going out and doing the things that I love. But why am I all of a sudden burnt out? Why am I all of a sudden not loving what I'm doing? Would you mind sharing a little bit of light into why that may have happened?
Gosh, well, yeah, I mean, if your genius is to get things done, like if you enjoy getting the stuff done and you enjoy the actual work of it, and now you're managing, which is not actually getting, there's not a lot of, I don't know, the tasks are different, right? You can still get things done. But if you really enjoyed that work, this is different work. It's very different. I mean, you're doing a lot of people managing, you're not doing a lot of, the tenacity work probably isn't there unless you're like, oh, I have to have this meeting. But yeah, you're going to get burnt out if you have tenacity and you're not seeing a lot of stuff getting done. And you're not getting to do it. That's hard. That's really hard, I would say.
Well, you may be like living in the discerning, galvanizing stage as a manager, right? Like you're trying to, so you moved from the tenacity and maybe one or two of the other geniuses, where you're going out and you're doing the thing, you're getting the task done. And when you got promoted because you were so good at what you were doing, now you're managing people. And you may be having to do a lot of galvanizing, and you may be even having to do a lot of enablement, and you may be even having to do a lot of discernment of like, am I hiring the right people for this role? I'm having to pump my team up and getting them excited to go do their job. I'm trying to build the morale around here. And I think that happens so many times within the ag industry, because like we're passionate about the thing and we're so good at it. And then society tells us we need to keep working our way up. People are going to promote us. And then we wonder why we're burnt out. And it's like, but I should love this. This is the company that I should be proud to work for. This is the type of work that I get to be involved with, even though you're slightly removed now. And, I get to help farmers. I get to do the thing. Like the end result of my team and my company is serving the purpose that I love. And so I almost feel guilty and shame about being in this promoted role, but I don't want to tell anybody, because I want them to think that I'm excelling, and I want them to think that I love what I do still, even though I'm removed from the role, the actual work that got me excited 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I met a guy who I just love. This guy, he's so self-aware, and he does actual work. Like he services these giant trucks for a giant company, and he loves the actual work he does. And he was complaining about his manager. I said, well, why don't you become the manager? And he's like, I don't want to be the manager because I love what I do. I love doing the things. I don't love telling people to do the things. I love doing it. So that's exactly what you were saying. It's like, if you understand yourself, it's okay. It's keep doing what you love to do. It's not, I mean, I know it's, you want to make more money and, grow, but you can still grow and do what you want to do. Maybe go to your boss and say, listen, I still want to do this. Maybe you could train people. Maybe, there's a whole WIing. Let's think outside the box. What is it that you could do differently, and how could you make that work? How do you lean into your working genius in your job and still grow?
And I'm assuming that the majority of people listening to this have not taken the Working Genius assessment, which, side note, you just Google the Working Genius, take the assessment. I think it's $25, and you can get this report that breaks down your geniuses, your competencies, and your frustrations. And then, you could utilize someone like myself or another Working Genius facilitator to kind of do like a debrief. Something that I'm doing is I'm going actually at the end of June to the Agriculture Business Council of Indiana and doing a workshop for the women in agribusiness session. And that's something that we're going to be talking about. Is we're going to go through the assessment. Everyone's going to be able to identify, what they do, how they can apply it to their role, and then be able to take that back to their companies. And I know there's going to be several companies represented there. But if someone if someone understood a little bit about who they were, but they didn't know what other people on their team or in their business or in their family was, what would be your advice on how to communicate, like, this is what I'm feeling, like I'm WIing right now, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what
Yeah,
kind of
you gotta be
advice would
careful
you
with that.
share? Yeah, what
Um,
kind of advice would you share with them? And I
yeah,
say that because I know that there's a lot of people within the ag industry that would never entertain taking any kind of personality assessment, let alone a productivity tool, because they're like, I'm productive. No one's going to tell me that I'm not. I've ran this business for 50 years and I've never had an issue. Why the heck would I want to reevaluate it now?
right. Well, you could be more productive. um, you know, gosh, I think I would just talk to them about what insights I found from the Working Genius and how it helped me and how it changed how I do things and how I get things done and how much I enjoy what I do now, or how it's changed what I enjoy and how much I enjoy things. I guess that would be my first thing, is to just talk to them about how it's benefited you and how it could help them, or how you think it could help them. And let them kind of figure that out as you're talking. I think, gosh, it's so great for families and teams and everybody. I mean, lots of companies have done this now, and just the results. If you're listening to the Working Genius podcast, you've heard all of the different stories, like that these companies go through and they are missing like an entire piece, and then all of a sudden they figure that out, and they're more productive. They have better ideas. They get things done better. It's such a great, quickly implemented tool that I think I would just talk about it with people.
Yeah. When I think about how it could impact not only a family run business, whether you're a farmer or a rancher, but someone who is working within the agriculture industry, like I mentioned, like, we're passionate about what we do. We take it very personally. A lot of the times our work is our life. Like, it's so intertwined. And we talk about like kind of being at that sweet spot or the crossroads of both our personal life and our professional life. And when I think about like how somebody in agriculture could benefit from this, I think directly like ROI, right? Like as a farming family, for example, the money that we spend has to give us a return, because, you know, like, it's going to impact lives. Like, it's personal. It's not just some company that we can take a risk on and just see where it goes. Like, it has to show an ROI. And so when I look at, okay, if I can, let's take a dairy, for example, like a dairy farm. If I have 15 employees and all of them are milking several head of cow a day, every day, twice, 2 or 3 times a day, however often you milk, I don't know. And if we could put the people who have tenacity and enablement and maybe even galvanizing doing the actual work, and then we have the employees that are wanderers, inventors, discerners, looking at the types of machinery, the equipment that we're using, the layout of the barn, the timing, all the vendors that we're selling our product to, all of that. If you had all of the right people in the right places, and if you take like a $25 assessment per person, so what's 20? I got to do math. Gosh darn it. I should not have done math on air. Okay. Let's just say you have 15 employees times $25. It's $375 of an investment,
Right.
to put the right people in the right places on your dairy. Think about the amount of money that you've spent on just one milking machine, or
Right.
what's one cow worth?
Right.
How many gallons of milk is that one cow producing? And if you think about that much money versus this one $375 investment, it's a no brainer to me.
Exactly. And plus, if you think of turnover, I don't know how high the turnover is, but holy cow, just hiring somebody is that costs money to replace somebody. And if you put somebody in the right job for them, you can keep them forever. You know, I mean, it just changes. Yeah, it's absolutely an investment. Absolutely.
Oh, you're so right on that too. Yeah, turnover is huge, especially like if you're doing physical manual labor. and you don't have tenacity or enablement, or, you know what I mean? You're kind of on that back half of the 6 stages of work, and you're doing the wrong type of work, like, you will get burnt out so quickly. And as a business owner, how important is that? To say, how much does it cost you to hire on a new employee? Think about uniforms, onboarding. Do you have to have DOT and records and physicals and licenses to operate certain machinery? Like, how much money does it actually cost you to hire somebody? And then what's the downtime of, like, let's just say we had a no call, no show, and your employee just quit after a month because they were doing type of work that they didn't like to do. How much money is it going to cost you to have to pay another person to work double time, and you're burning them out, or bringing in and doing the work yourself? Or what, I mean, like, the cost mentally and physically is huge. So, like, implementing this into the onboarding and interviewing stages of, like, this is the legitimate type of work you're going to be doing. If you think you're going to come in here and not do this type of work, we may have a better role for you on the farm. We may have a better position.
Yeah. And that's one of the things they're really working on now, is like, okay, let's talk about how you hire. Like, know what the position needs. Does it need enablement and tenacity? Do you need somebody who's really good at thinking outside of the box and doing wonder and invention and discernment? Do you need somebody who's a great galvanizer? Know what your jobs are, what you need in your job, and then you can hire for that too. So it can help you in every aspect of your work.
Oh, that's good. And I mean, I even think about, like, a previous role that I had. It was a large agriculture company, and we were all sitting around brainstorming ideas for an event we were going to host for our clients. And, after the meeting, I guess the manager went up to one of the employees and said, you can pitch in on the brainstorming. Like, we want to hear your ideas. We want you to participate in this event that we're going to host for our clients. And they felt a lot of shame and a lot of guilt around, like, why can't I come up with ideas? Why can't I get creative? Like, why don't I have an opinion about how this event should be ran? And after I talked to her about the Working Genius, she's like, well, no kidding. I have enablement and tenacity. I don't want to brainstorm. Tell me what I need to go do, and I will make this event happen. But I don't want to be a part of the front half of that. And that's totally shocked me, because I'm sitting here thinking, I can't wait to come up with the ideas. We could do this here, we could do that here. But you ask me to go, like, put the tent together and build the table props and all the things. It's hard work for me to do that.
Right.
And I felt guilty because I didn't want to pitch in on that,
I'm exactly the same way. Like, I love brainstorming. If you said brainstorming, I just get excited, right?
Me too.
Doesn't everybody love that? Yeah. And
I love it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And my son Matthew doesn't like to brainstorm. And I'm like, okay, that's great to know. It's good to know. Good to know that you don't like
that's interesting, because isn't he a DW?
Yes, he doesn't like to invent. I should say that he's okay with brainstorming.
Oh, that type of brainstorming.
Yes. Yeah. He's really good with taking ideas and discerning them and kind of the nuance of everything, but he doesn't like to invent from scratch. So, and I think
invention, invention is my competency. So I think that the invention and the wonder bleed together for me. And so I view it as one and the same. Whereas somebody who doesn't have invention as a competency is like, brainstorming looks different for me.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's so many, I mean, you can geek out on this totally.
I am.
But there's so many different things that go into that. Like you were talking about earlier, like your Myers-Briggs could be different. Your whole, so every WD doesn't look the same based on your competencies and your frustrations and all that stuff. So, but knowing your competencies and your frustrations are huge in helping you figure out what kind of work you love to do and helping you be fulfilled in your job and helping the company get more stuff done.
Yes. And I think that that's so key to call out in ag, because a lot of us we don't want to admit that there's certain things we're not enjoying, or we think we aren't allowed to enjoy what we do because it's expected of us to just do the job. We don't have a choice in the matter. And that makes my heart hurt to think that there are certain people who realize like, or they don't understand anything different. Like I look at my dad, for example, farming is all he's ever known. He grew up farming. He's been a farmer his entire adult life. He knows nothing other than that. And I don't know how to approach the conversation of like, do you actually enjoy it? Or is this just what you've only known? Like, does it bring you joy? And it probably does in certain areas, but he knows nothing other than farming. Right. And, you know, it's just, I don't know how to approach that yet, but I just think it's fascinating. And, you know, the whole point behind AgriMinds, the group coaching and the mastermind is to know like the 15 people that are going to be in this group are all coming to there's no way that all 15 people have the exact combination of what their working geniuses are. Like there's no way that they all have the same geniuses, competencies, and frustrations. And so coming together as a collective, we're going to be spending the first week and probably 2 weeks talking about what is the working genius, and then how over the next 12 weeks we can implement that into our roles. And as a collective, all of us are going to be bringing our different strengths to the table and sharing and kind of coaching each other on how can this person who's having this obstacle overcome it in the least unproductive or impactful way that's like the most beneficial. And so that's the best part about this is we're all coming to this with a background in agriculture, and we're starting to drop the acorn into the water for the ripple effect of how we can impact other companies, other people, and in our industry. And it's just, I'm excited about it. Like maybe I'm a little over eager or zealous about this, but I can just see this being so dang impactful. And so I just want to thank you and your husband and the rest of the people at the table group for, you know, just taking the time to really make this a thing and share it with the world, because it's been life-changing for me. I'm already seeing it impacting other people's lives, and my marriage included in that. You know, it's been so cool to see. And so I just want to thank you for joining me today and sharing all of your words and wisdom. And, you know, we may have to do like a part 2 follow-up after the 12 weeks of AgriMinds, which it runs from July through September. And there are a couple of seats left. So if there's anybody listening that wants to dive in on this and really just grab the bull by the horns, I encourage you to sign up today. And you can do so by visiting kaceeboll.com or sending me a direct message. So anyway, thank you, Laura, for doing this. Again, we may have to do a part 2 after it wraps up and just kind of like debrief all of the things that we've learned.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. It's great.
All right. Well, thanks, Laura. I appreciate it.
Take care.